Alright guys, what is good? This is Londononion back, taking a plunge into the new Update 25.
Again.
So, whose turn is it to find more fuel? Not me. Last time I almost got ripped apart by a feral.
I have a better idea. We could settle down here instead of moving on.
I admit, it looks better than the last couple of towns we came through. Now that you mention it, it does feel kind of homey.
It's settled. This town is where we'll set up our new base. We just have to find a spot that's defensible, maybe with some room to expand.
Alright, yeah, so sorry. This one is actually, this was kind of random, almost. Originally, I was going to use this community that I'm starting up now as kind of an experimental community. And I actually was not planning on doing a playthrough with the new updates just yet. However, it looks like some of you might have an eye for that kind of thing, and since it is so new, I figured, I'm such a tryhard and a glutton for punishment, why not try out doing a nice little playthrough slash walkthrough of our new um, Update 25 campaign. Now, because this is, kind of outside of what I had planned, this is not going to be a live commentary, at least not for the first few, for the first maybe 2 or 3 videos. But afterwards, yes, I will definitely do the live commentary. So for the time being, I guess you can say I'm just giving a bit of post-commentary for the gameplay at hand. Maybe to help explain some of my choices. Honestly, this was supposed to start off as me just figuring out good strategies for the beginning. Especially with the new changes that have taken place, old playstyles probably wouldn't be as viable anymore. With the way Update 25 has gone, especially with these, plague zones or plague territories, it will naturally change up the progression and how one ultimately goes through their own legacy. So you will be seeing me pretty much explore my way through this as just a deep plunge. Now, what I didn't end up showing, mistakenly, was the skills that I had chosen for this legacy to start off with. Now, again, this is just a plunge, so I really can't say whether or not these are really the best of ideas, but I went with something similar to our last walkthrough in the lethal zone, that being recycling, hygiene, and lichenology. Now, hygiene I just kind of randomly came across as I was selecting my skills, and I kind of liked its effects. And I figured, you know what, this is supposed to be an experiment anyway, let's just see how it works out. But yeah, I guess you can say this will be the base of skills I'm starting off with. Lichenology,
We'll
um,
take it slow.
what do you call it? Recycling and hygiene. Hygiene helps with infection resistance. And that actually goes for the whole community, and it adds an extra 10 hit points. So I figured, you know what, let me just keep it. Things aren't going to be progressing like they typically would have before Update 25. So I think I can use all the plague resistance I can get. But anyways, I decided, you know what, since it's experimental, I'm going to start off in Mayor Valley. That's just kind of the go-to. I know the place like the back of my hand, so I mean, I figured it would help things go kind of smooth. Alright, so yeah, this is just me making our way into the home. The few areas that I did search, those are common spots where you can find ammo, possibly even a firearm, or if you're lucky, a crossbow. In my last playthrough, I think I had found a crossbow as one of the first few things. I'm not quite sure. Um, but yeah, searching those areas, like you're gonna see like a little an ammo container, one up on that first billboard that you run into. Just a little tip for those who do decide to start on Mayor Valley. That is where you can look to find your first bit of ammo, possibly even a firearm. Now, not all of the rules have changed. Well, I shouldn't say, a good amount of them stay the same, actually, as far as starting out and, progressing. I would definitely say try to build up your skills first, especially stealth. That's going to be the hardest one to build up, I would say. Try to find yourself a firearm as soon as possible. A crossbow would be most ideal, of course, in the beginning, because you don't want to be making a whole lot of noise when nighttime comes. But anyway, yeah, so here we are just clearing out the house. Way more packed than last time. In my last playthrough, the house did not seem this full anyway. There definitely was not a screamer, and there was not a bloater at the gates. But I mean, who knows? Maybe things have actually changed. Maybe other smaller things have changed since the update.
All right then. Once we claim this place, it's officially ours.
It's not a bad idea.
Our first priority has to be gathering materials. We'll need them to improve this place.
We need some eyes out there. You up for it?
Yeah, it's strange. I actually only got like one part. I really hope recycling wasn't like nerfed or something, so that you literally get one part. I actually have to check that to be absolutely sure. I did not take that in initially. So yeah, when starting out, I usually just have my own kind of plan. As you can say, I've done it too many times. You don't necessarily have to go for materials first. Personally, I like to secure my vehicle and try to find a firearm of some sort. The last thing I really wanted to do was run into a feral and, you know, pretty much get caught off guard.
I find freak zombies fascinating.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course they see me from behind the fence, even while sneaking. I don't know. I find sometimes the obstacles, they're a bit deceiving in how much they can actually conceal you. But whatever. Now, for any first-timers out there, those who have seen any of my survival guides, yes, I do break a few rules, mind you. For example, you know, one of the things I always used to say, sneak, don't walk. Now, this does not necessarily mean you literally have to sneak everywhere, but especially if you are like a first-timer or maybe not too used to the Nightmare and Lethal Zone, you might want to take it a little bit slower. I mean, I've already heard enough or read enough stories of people, you know, they spawn in, they start their game, and all of a sudden there's a feral, they get blood plague, and, you know, they die. Something like that. Um, I would say take it slower than you typically would. Like that horde over there, I remember I was kind of anxious, like I did not want to get caught in that. Take it slower than you typically would. A feral, you never know, could just be right around the corner. And fighting them can be tricky. But after my exploration, was the last video that I made actually, after my exploration, I came to learn, actually, that ferals do not spread their plague to you if you dodge through them. At least, not anymore. And that's extremely helpful, but my fighting patterns still remain the same with them. I'd still prefer to sprint more and dodge less when fighting them, because it does take up less stamina. And I don't know, I've gotten so used to fighting that way that it feels almost incorrect to do otherwise. Alright, so at this point, I'm going off to now secure my first firearm and get some materials.
I should stay away from that bloater.
And without a firearm, I don't want to cause too much trouble or noise. And again, as I had shared in my last playthrough, in the beginning, for the most part, I'm going to just be doing things at a rather slow pace. Um, It's just the safest way, especially when starting off. Everyone's fresh, no one's got specialized skills, and especially, I have no firearm. Luxurious items are going to be useful. We're going to need that for influence a bit later. Influence in the beginning is going to be tight. Naturally, that just will be the case, you know. Look at that, scraps material, or not material, circuitry. Yes, we're going to need that as well. Although, with the way outposts can work now, we may or may not need a solar array at some point in the future. I can't even really predict what the future of this playthrough slash walkthrough is going to be. Because I am now plunging into this the first time as a fresh start. You guys are all going to be on the same page with me. I'm just taking it as it goes, or as it comes. Now, for those who are following along, or maybe using my playthrough slash walkthrough as an example, I can't always guarantee that the buildings that I search are going to be available to you. I'm not sure if it's randomized or if it's static, but this is usually my go-to, this area, and I haven't really ever had trouble, like, you know, being able to find at least one firearm in this spot. There's also another gun store that's not too far away from the tutorial home. I think I've seen it searched out before, and other times I've seen it as available for searching to find a firearm. So it may or may not be available. Some of what you see here, you might not be able to emulate yourself. So just keep that one in mind. Plus, later on, when we start looking at the plague zones, or plague territories, I think that's what they're called, I'm not sure if, again, if that's kind of randomized or if it's static on the map. Like maybe some areas have a higher threat level than others, or some areas require more hearts than others, and if that's random, well, then there's only so much you can actually gain from this.
Yikes, too loud.
Yeah, usually as soon as I find my first firearm, I immediately just give it to one of my allies back at home. They will likely be able to use it much better than I can. And while I'm out, luckily I was actually able to find a crossbow, one that was only 1 pound, which is really not that common. They're usually like around, I think, 9 pounds. And then, you know, the bigger ones that have, you know, maxed out power, those ones are like 12.5 pounds. I don't typically like to lug those things around because I like to stay as nimble as possible. But yes, I was able to get lucky enough to find my first crossbow, so going around at nighttime now is just a little bit less threatening. In fact, nightfall came really quickly, I must say, in this one. It's like the game started me off in the evening.
I'm glad we've already got a start on building this base up into something real.
Yes, infirmary will kind of have to be number one. With the changes that I am... Oh yes, those cure people. Oh man, they're a different conversation altogether. In regards to starting the base, there's a number of ways one can start off their base. Infirmary is definitely like a must. You want to minimize your chances of contracting the plague as much as possible, and that will mean, of course, using your infirmary beds to cut down any kind of infection that one has gotten, because you don't want to have your back up against the wall where you're struggling to find a cure and someone's going to die in like 2.5 minutes. Which actually leads me to those guys. For those who have seen the last playthrough I did, particularly in the beginning, I always advise against giving them your first set of plague samples. Make your own cure first. In fact, I would even say make your first 2 cures first, before you give them anything. Only because I've had a bad experience where I gave away the exact samples that could have saved a survivor's life later on. And that wasn't fun. So yeah, this is the gun store I was referring to earlier. This is a go-to spot. I don't know if... I'm pretty sure I've spawned in on this map before, and it was already looted out. I could be wrong. My memory's not the greatest on that one. But yes, if it's available, definitely try to go here first. Find yourself firearms and ammo.
I see no more Zeds.
Alright, perfect. And that pistol will definitely end up going to one of my people at home. There's also a couple unmarked spots on the map. I don't know all of them. There's just a few that I do know of where there's typically a good amount of ordnance, sometimes explosives, rare ammo, or just a, I don't know, bigger weapon altogether. Oh yeah, I was struggling to find this one. I figured, yeah, it was on the roof. It was on the roof. I was thinking, like, I must be going, like, freaking blind or something. Like, geez, how am I not finding this last stupid container? Yeah, there it is.
Another waste of time.
And yeah, it was a waste of time. Oh yeah, so anyway, I think I got off on a tangent here. Looks like food is still the same consumption, which is cool. I don't think anything should change around that one, just a minor update like that. But in regards to starting off the base, typically I would usually go with, of course, the infirmary. I believe I would also go with the garden and I wouldn't say a workshop. I've gone with a latrine in the past, particularly in my past walkthrough. Morale wasn't looking the greatest, especially with some injuries, so I had to find like a really fast way to like increase morale. And a latrine, I would say, is pretty good to have in the beginning. It helps with those emergencies, and it's not too expensive to build. I think it's only 3 materials. I have gone with the rain collector as well, just to give a small morale boost. And I've gone with a garden just to offset some of our food loss. Now, with the skills I've chosen, it's actually building up on other resources that typically would either be at a minus or be at neutral. With recycling in particular, I'm gaining materials, I believe 2 of them every day. So that is extremely helpful for building purposes and maintenance costs. Well, that's going to come in for later on anyway. Lycanology helps with meds, and that would also help with our offset when our infirmary gets upgraded. For hygiene, that one was kind of a random pick, sort of a random pick. I saw it and I thought, why not just try it out since this was originally supposed to be experimental? Typically, I would actually go with computers because I liked the idea of being able to upgrade to more outposts. But given how much easier things will be to get skills in or after this update, I figured I don't really have to start with computers since it could be readily available to me much easier. So yeah, like you can start off with a garden, infirmary, a rain collector. As an alternative, you could just use a latrine if you're worried about morale, which is, I would say, a very good option as well. Others may recommend a watchtower. Personally, I don't like using a watchtower because I don't want there to be an ammo offset or an ammo deficit. Especially in the beginning, I like to retain as much ammo as I can, especially if I need to craft other explosives. Not that I really recommend crafting much in the beginning anyway. But alright, here we go. Going into now our first plague territory. First, I'm going to go off and talk to these guys, but there is now actually an advantage to there being plague territory. In my old playthrough, I found it was very difficult actually finding plague Zeds to hunt plague samples from. But now with plague territory, there's just plague Zeds all over the place, so acquiring the samples should actually be a much faster process now. And with a cure, I am more likely to, like, try to take more risks or try things that'll help me progress a little bit because I know I can get the plague and kind of bounce right back from it. So that's why luckily I was able to find this crossbow. This was actually a very lucky find, again, especially the 1-pound one and a good amount of bolts. Now just trying to get my samples, not to give it to these guys just yet, but just to, like, progress myself. And luckily they are all armed.
place to find them is in the territory around a plague heart.
Alright, thanks, Tips. Explosives I always like to buy from
Or you could just destroy the plague heart itself
my
with explosive
allies.
samples. That's more dangerous.
It's way easier than crafting, especially if it's something like mines. You know, those things can sometimes take scraps of circuitry or just
Helping out like
an
this?
exorbitant amount of ammo or something like that. It's like, man, I'd rather just buy it. Influence is infinite. The crafting resources, not exactly. Yeah, materials are going to be very important. I am, in a way, in a race against time right now, because I'm technically in an unsustainable base with only 3 people and a finite amount of resources. There's going to be plague territories everywhere, and in order for me to progress, like taking up outposts, I will have to kill plague hearts. So these are threat levels I'm looking at. I can't say whether or not this kind of thing will be static. I can't guarantee that this one area will only require the elimination of 1 heart. It's possible that it might require multiple hearts in this specific area, and in another area maybe 1. I'm not sure. There's only so much I've been able to observe so far. But luckily, this area close to home only requires 1. So that will make acquiring such resources, or sorry, not acquiring resources, but like killing the plague hearts and then acquiring the outpost for resources a little bit easier. But yes, I am in a race against time. I got to get my samples as quickly as I can. Maybe accrue any kind of offensive measures as much as I can anyway, to make the first heart as easy as possible. Plus, it's a good time for skill building. In the beginning of the game, it's nice to go out and hunt a little bit, get your plague samples, build up your skills. Like, I'm trying to build up her wits, which is just a long, arduous task without any ally bonuses. Oh, look at that, our first infestation. With the crossbow, infestations aren't a problem. Without the crossbow, pray you got a heavy weapon or something that can eliminate them quickly. And yeah, food, actually, you know what, food is another one. Food is a major deal in the beginning of the game. With 3 people, you're going to start off with a deficit of 6.
I'm exhausted.
And that can go very quickly in just a couple of days. So this is also part of the race against time. You gotta get yourself either a garden or an outpost, something that can lower the food demand as much as possible. Well, seeds are always going to be useful. Pretty much anything I can find will be useful, even if it's just luxurious items, seeds, those crafting bits, whatever you call them, the crafting parts. Everything is useful in the beginning.
I gotta end that one. Oh, good.
And as much as those little crafting bits might be, like, they might seem useless to carry, I would still recommend gathering as much of those as possible. Recycling does help. That's part of why I actually took on recycling. They are supposed to add those crafting parts each day. And they are going to come in very useful for when you want to craft anything that, you know, like an explosive, like pipe bombs or something like that. It's nice to have that income just so you can craft those things, because having to look for them is very tedious work. Look at that, our first sample, or our second sample. But yeah, those guys are not getting it, that's for sure. And don't worry about them getting pissy with you or impatient. Like I mentioned in my last playthrough, they don't go away. They will stay there for days on end until you give them those plague samples, but also nothing else will really progress as much either. So you are going to be at a bit of a standstill in your progress. But that is okay. That is okay. Establish yourself first. Get your cures. Do that first, because you matter more than your allies.
We're good. No more Zeds in sight.
Yeah, I think yeah, I concluded there's definitely not a food rucksack in here. It's pointless even looking in those tiny boxes. One of them was even a fuel container. It's definitely not going to contain food. Maybe if I return to it and I get proven wrong, then yeah, yeah, you guys can like point the finger at me and say you were wrong. Go ahead. All right, so we're coming up on a spot where one of those unmarked containers are. They usually contain something really nice inside, like a I don't know, fair amount of ammo or rare types of ammo, maybe even just like an awesome gun or something.
This is great.
And this one has, look at that. This one has an automatic weapon. Comes with 50 caliber rounds, and it comes with the relevant ammo for that gun. So that's an extremely good find. I just don't have enough space in my pockets to actually take it on. But yeah, you can keep that spot in mind. There's another spot we're going to end up exploring in the future. That one should also have a good amount of resources there for use. Geez, I'm actually really lucky I found this crossbow. I actually can't get over that.
Nothing
Always
safe
take out the
from
screamer
inside.
first, and then the rest shouldn't be a problem. It only sucks when there's two screamers and like they're side by side or something. So if one dies, the other one gets anxious and, alerts the rest anyway. I have 3 left. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, stealth, or not just stealth, but like the wits skill set, I like to prioritize the most in the beginning. Fighting is easy, that one will just come with time. Cardio is also easy, that one naturally will just come with having to explore your environment or like run away from a group of Zeds or something.
How's it going?
Let me see what you got.
Okay.
And yep, selling off our stuff that we don't need is going to be useful. Well, for now, in the beginning. It's going to be a struggle breaking past like 1,000 influence this early in the game. So these guys will serve their purpose. So yeah, we're going to put this stuff away so we can go back and get those other goodies, which will really help to arm someone in the base with. Another major thing, we're definitely going to have to try to find a 50 cal weapon as soon as we can. Not sure where I'm going to find it, but hopefully a trader shows up that we can buy it off of. Plus, we already have like the 50 caliber rounds for it too, so that's great. Look at that, our first skill in fighting. Or first star in fighting. But surprisingly, I didn't... Oh wait, yeah, her wit's already up. We're not starting at 0 with her wits.
So tired.
Alright, perfect. We can keep ourselves armed, and we got a primary and a secondary. I still do have to get used to using the weapon switch. Very nice mechanic. It's nice to actually have a primary and a secondary slot. Having to open up your inventory to switch out a weapon because one ran out of ammo or like broke or something is stressful. But I still, as an instinct, open my inventory and attempt to switch weapons like that. Alright, so we're pretty much going to go back off to hunt some more. I understand how urgent things are, especially since I'm kind of like boxed in. There's really not much I can do. Seems like every other place outside of my tutorial area is, well, considered plague territory. So, naturally, yes, I would recommend hunting. Go out and find your plague samples, loot some places for whatever resources you need, but don't rely on that for too long. I think we still only have 2 plague samples, so we're not exactly doing the greatest right now. Now, of course, part of hunting is making sure that your combat skills are on point. The last thing you want to do is accrue too much infection. I mean, I only have a level 1 infirmary, so I mean, you'd also want to watch your injuries, because those things will not go away without a level 2 infirmary. Again, race against time. And with time, it's inevitable. You're going to get some injuries. You're going to take on some infection. As long as you are efficient in getting your resources, you should be fine. But definitely, you know, be conservative with your combat. Know what you're able to take on. Run away from whatever you can't. Yeah, look at that. You see that? I meant to switch over to my crossbow, but I realized, oh snap, I can just... Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get used to switching out weapons like that. Really, it should be intuitive, but for this game, I don't know. It's not within the muscle memory. Alright, so this barn was a bit more full than I thought it would have been. But I mean, it's still considered to be within the plague territory, so, you know, it's never going to be a safe zone until I can get rid of the 1 heart, or maybe it's 2 hearts that are covering this one. Alright, my survivor's getting tired. I think I'm choosing to run away from this one. Yeah, no need to take unnecessary risks. For those who do wonder why I'm always jumping around all over the place, that is what I'm just calling the foxtrot. It's way better than sprinting in that you use up much less influence and you also travel faster, provided you can do it properly, though. I cover that in my advanced tactics guide video. For those that know what I'm talking about, you know you're doing it right when you no longer have to press the sprint button and hold forward, and you can just keep jumping. Or, sorry, you know you're doing it right when you no longer have to hold down the sprint button and just move forward while jumping in a rhythmic motion. Right, yeah, now's a good time to find someone to switch over with, let them build up some of their skills. I mean, this girl's getting tired. I would say she had a productive day, though. She was the first one out. Didn't really have to take on too much. And luckily, everyone kind of has their own meds and snacks, and we don't have to share them, because that's not exactly fun.
Take the reins for a bit.
Now, guys, please forgive this this style of commentary. You know, typically I would just do the live commentary as I go through the game. Like I said, this one was kind of just you know, a random change of plans, if you will. And the live commentary will come up in maybe an episode or 2. But otherwise, for the time being, yeah. This has been our first episode, our first plunge into the updated campaign. And I will see you guys in the next episode.